to just press a button on any interesting LinkedIn profile and automatically send a customized lead generation email. Well, now there is. And there you have it, a beautiful email ready to go. Look at that email. Amazing. Okay, perfect. And it also generates an AI generated cat as well. And obviously the cat can sometimes get a little messed up, but otherwise that seems to be everything seems to be in order. So let's figure out how we can go ahead and build this. So we start out with a webhook, and that a webhook is basically a URL hosted in this case on make.com, where we can set up any external we can set up any kind of script or any kind of small app to send some information to that webhook. And once that, in this case, that's the Chrome extension that we built on LinkedIn. And once that LinkedIn Chrome extension sends that information, it's received by the webhook, and then it is sent all throughout this entire chain of events to do some research on the prospect and to generate an email, send the email, and finally add their name to our list with a timestamp as well. Perfect. So let's go ahead and see how we can build this. The first thing that we are going to do is create a new scenario. And that new scenario starts off with a magic webhook. We want to create a custom webhook. Let's go ahead and add one. Let's call it linked automation webhook. Perfect. Okay. So we have a webhook address, and now what we have to do is we have to send some test data to this webhook. And by sending that test data, the make.com is going to understand what exactly to receive and how to process that. So let's go ahead and see how we can do that. Now I have here the code for this custom Chrome extension, and I'm going to share it with you with a link in the description so you can go ahead and download this if you want to. Now, what we want to do is we want to find this line of code on 6 and 7, and we want to replace this webhook URL with the webhook URL that make.com just provided us. So I'm going to go pop back over to make.com. I'm going to grab the URL. Let's come back here and paste it. So perfect. So we have now pasted the URL here, and I'm going to go and hit save, and this is ready to go. So I'm going to open a new tab, go to Chrome://extensions. Once you're in here, you need to go ahead and select load unpacked. And from load unpacked, you want to choose the folder of that Chrome extension and select, and you'll see that the extension has been loaded, LinkedIn Profile Extractor 1.0, and we can just hit refresh one more time. Now that we have the now that we have the Chrome extension loaded up, we can go back to linkedin.com and let's just find somebody else. Okay, so we have Luke Matthews. Now this person looks interesting. Let's go ahead and click on our Chrome extension. We have LinkedIn Profile Extractor, and if you click extract profile data, that should hopefully send the first name, the last name, and the URL of LinkedIn to our webhook. So let's go ahead and click extract profile data. Okay, perfect. Now if we go back to make.com, we'll see that we have successfully determined the information that the webhook is sending. Perfect. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to feed all of this information into something called Lemlist. And Lemlist is a really amazing app which you can just provide a LinkedIn URL, a first name and a last name, and it's going to go ahead and find a lot of details about their LinkedIn profile. So let's go ahead and click Enrich Lead. Now we do need to set up a connection. So we just go back into Lemlist, lemlist.com. You can sign up for free. They give you like 500 credits to play around with. And their plans are also quite reasonable. So I'm just going to go ahead and log in. Let's go ahead and sign in. Okay, perfect. So we are signed in to our Lemlist account. Now what we need to do is we need to go into settings. So go ahead and click your name, click settings, and go to integrations. And under integrations, you want to find API keys, generate an API key, give it a name, create the key, copy that, and then come back over to make.com and you can go ahead and click add here and add your API key. Since mine is already set up, I don't really need to do anything else. So now we need to populate the fields that Lemlist is going to use to search and enrich this lead. So first name is the first name from the webhook. Last name is the last name from the webhook. And finally, we have the LinkedIn URL, which is the URL. We don't want to find the phone in this case, but you can leave that on if you do want to. We do want to find the email. You can choose to verify the email, but that will use extra credits. And we want to enrich the LinkedIn profile as well. So let's go ahead and click save. And let's go ahead and run this one more time. So we go back to LinkedIn and extract profile data. Perfect. And we go back here and we see that Lemlist has now accepted this data, and it's now going to enrich this lead with all of the information. So now that we have all of this information, you can go ahead and see, you can go to the output data. So we have the email address. Perfect. And we also have all of this information from LinkedIn, the URL, first name, last name. We have the tagline, we have their summary, we have their school, everything, all this information that we have that we can play around with. Now, what we are going to do is, since we don't want to keep calling Lemlist every single time we build this automation out and we test it, I'm just going to go ahead and click download output bundles. And I'm going to select everything from data. Just make sure that I have all of the, okay, I have all of the data here. Perfect. And I'm going to add a new module, and let's call that parse JSON. And here we're going to dump in all of this. Perfect. Let's go ahead and run this module. If we're getting an error, it means that we are missing a few curly braces somewhere. So let's open it up with a curly brace and close this with a curly brace as well. That should fix this. Let's go ahead and run it. Perfect. So we have all of this data. We have the email and we have LinkedIn, everything that we need to continue building this automation. So for the time being, I am going to unlink this. I'm going to move Lemlist aside, and I'm going to link. And now we are going to start the automation from JSON, and then we can continue from here. And once we have built everything out and tested it, we can just add everything back and change the variables as needed. So now that we have all of this LinkedIn data, the next step is to draft an email. So let's go ahead and add an OpenAI module. You want to create a completion, and you want to make sure that you have an OpenAI connection. If you don't, you can click add and go to platform.openai.com, grab an API key, and that'll be good. If you want to create a chat completion, the model can be GPT-4o latest. And we're going to give it two prompts. We're going to give it a user prompt, and we're also going to give it a system prompt to make sure that the format of the email is exactly what we're looking for. Let's go ahead. The message is user, and let's go ahead and grab that prompt. So we're going to add all of this. Now we have, this is our prompt. Obviously, you're going to change the services that you offer depending on, whatever that may be. And we have to go ahead and replace these variables. We're going to replace them once now, and we will have to replace them one more time from, once we hook everything up. So let's go ahead. We want the first name and the last name. So we go to LinkedIn, first name, space, last name. Perfect. School. Let's go ahead and find the school. Skills. Let's go ahead and find skills. Summary. Let's go ahead and find the summary. The tagline. Let's go ahead and find the tagline. Company description. Let's go ahead and find that. Company domain, if we can find that. Okay, perfect. And company specialities. Perfect. And right, only the email body for now. This is how I am going to sign my email off. Obviously, you want to change that however you want to. And we want to add one more prompt just to force ChatGPT to make sure that the output is exactly what we're looking for. So we're going to add a developer/system prompt. Let's go ahead and add that in. This is the output that we are looking for, because the HTML will be formatted correctly and show up in Gmail the way that we want to. Perfect. Okay, so this is ready to go. Let's go ahead and run that. Let's hit save first. Okay, so because we're getting this red dot, let's go ahead and click this again. Let's hit save. Save this, and we've forgotten to give this automation a name, so let's go ahead and do that as well. Perfect. Let's go ahead and run that and see whether everything is working fine or not. Okay, that was really quick. So let's go ahead and see the result, and you'll see that we do have an email ready to go. Now, ChatGPT has decided to go ahead and add this additional HTML here. Let's go back and just add something to the prompt to make sure that it starts directly with the opening HTML tag, nothing else. So we can just modify the system prompt and then be on with our business. Okay, that should do the trick. Now we're going to create another prompt, and this prompt is going to generate a subject line for this email. Let's go ahead and create another completion. Okay, the model is for our latest. Add a message. The role is a user. Let's go ahead and grab the content. Okay, so here is the prompt. Now, based on this email, write a catchy, unconventional subject line, da 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 da, and the result. This is the email that it has to write a subject line for. Let's give it another developer prompt and just make sure that it output the subject line directly without any double quotes. Perfect. So this seems to be everything seems to be in order. Now that the email body is done and the subject line is done, we can also start building out the automation for generating the image of the cat that we're going to send. So let's go ahead and create an HTTP request. We want to make a request. And for this, we are going to use replicate. Let's pop over to replicate. So let's go to the explore page and find a model to use. I prefer using Flux Schnell because it's the cheapest. The results are pretty decent. So let's go ahead and scroll down and here we go. Flux Schnell. Okay, this is 1/3 of a cent per image, so it's pretty cheap. And we can go over to HTTP and see the request that we need to make. So this is the URL that we have to make a request to. Let's go ahead and grab that. Just press copy. Go back to integrations. The URL is this URL. It's not a get method. We have to put a post. Now for the headers, we have to go back to replicate and see what the header should be. So the -h is the headers that this URL, this API call is looking for. So the first header is called authorization. Let's go ahead and grab that. Let's paste that. And the authorization header has to be bearer and your API key. So let's go ahead and add bearer, and I'm going to grab my API key and paste that here. If you don't have an API key, you can go over to replicate, click on your username, go to API tokens, and generate an API key. Okay, we do need to add one more header. That header is going to be content type. And the value of that header is going to be application/JSON. Now the body type is going to be raw. Content type is going to be JSON. And the request content is we have to go back to replicate and find that. So this is the request content that we want. All of this. So you can just go ahead and grab that, head back over to make.com and add the request content. Perfect. And we want to make sure we are retaining the quotes. So we have // hi data LinkedIn first name slashes again and quotation. Perfect. So everything else seems to be in order. We can go ahead and we do want to parse the response. Let's go ahead and hit save. Okay, now that we have made the request, we want to add a sleep, which is a special function basically telling make.com to wait. So we want to wait maybe 10 seconds for the execution to finish. And now we will need to run this once to make sure that everything is in order. So let's go ahead and hit save just to make sure we don't lose any progress, and run once. And let's see what this comes up with. And we seem to have thrown an error. So let's go ahead and figure out what that error was. Okay, so it seems like the issue is in the slashes. So we can actually just go ahead and remove the slashes, and maybe that'll just do the trick. So let's go ahead and remove the slashes for now. Should still pick everything up okay. Okay, so the request did go through. Perfect. Now, if we do look at this request, we'll see that the output data has a URL, and it has a get URL. So this is the URL that we now need to make an HTTP request to in order to get the file. So let's go ahead and download output bundles. You can scroll down and find that URL that we're looking for. So let's go ahead and copy this get URL. Perfect. Copy. We can close that. Let's go ahead and do another HTTP request. This time we need to do another get request to that particular URL with our API key. And that is going to give us the URL of the final file output. So we just need the authorization, which, if you remember, is bearer, and the API key, which I'm just going to quickly go over and grab. Perfect. And we do want to parse the response. Save. And just for the interest of testing this, and so that we don't end up generating another image that we are not going to use, I'm just going to unlink this for now. And let's move this over here. So we do have the correct URL here. And if you go to data, output, and we have a file here. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and create another. We have to do another HTTP request. This time we want to download a file. The file we're going to download is going to be from this request. So we have to go to output, and this is the file that we're looking for. Perfect. We can run that one more time. We'll see that a file has indeed been downloaded, and we should see that we have an image here. Amazing. Now all that's left to do is put this all together and throw it into an email and update a spreadsheet saying that we have indeed sent this email on this day. So I'm going to add another module. This time we're going to search for Gmail, and we want to send an email. Now, you want to add a connection to Google if you don't already have it set up. This is really easy. If you just click add, you can sign in with Google, and that'll be that. So just making sure I have the right one. Okay, so now in the to field, we want to add the email address that we found from earlier. But since our scenario is not hooked up to the rest of it, this is not going to work. So we have to move this back to here, connect this up, and now we can find the email that we're looking for. So add recipient, and let's go scroll down and find the email that was found earlier. Perfect. The subject is the subject line that we generated from here. So here's the result. The content is the content of the email that we generated here. Perfect. And we do want to add an attachment, and the attachment is HTTP get a file. And this is all ready to go. The final step, and since we're getting this red dot, we just have to click here again. Just make sure that everything is okay. We're not missing anything, and click save, and you see the red dot is gone. So now the last step is to create a connection to a spreadsheet and update the spreadsheet with every email that we have sent out. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Google Sheets, click add a row. Just make sure you have the right connection going. And this time we're going to go and find our spreadsheet, which I have called LinkedIn Outreach. It's the same spreadsheet that I showed you at the start of the video. It's this one here. Everything's set up: the first name, last name, LinkedIn URL, email address, done or not, and the date. So let's go back here. The sheet name is sheet 1. The table does contain headers, and we just update all of these values again. So let's go ahead and go to LinkedIn, first name, last name. The LinkedIn URL is this. Want to find the email address. Oops. We want to add the email address. And for done, we're going to say yes. And the date is going to be two curly braces now. And this is basically a make.com variable, which contains the current date and time. So let's go ahead and hit save. Now, while we run this, if we run this automation, it's going to actually send the email out to whoever that we have found, Mr. Luke Matthews. But just for the purpose of testing, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to change the email address to my own email address. Just for the time being, since we're testing it to make sure everything's okay, I'm going to hit save. Let's go ahead and run this automation and see whether everything turned out okay or not. And if we go to Gmail, we will indeed see that we have a new email. Perfect. Now there is one error that we are running into, and that is that the attachment didn't show up correctly, and that is there's an easy fix for that, and that's because in the request that we made, we are asking it to output a WebP file, and the WebP is not loading correctly in Gmail, so we can just go ahead and change this to JPG. Let's go ahead and save that, and everything is set. So we have the automation in place. Now the last thing to do is hook it back up to lemlist and the webhook and just replace all of the variables. Let's go back here and move this back here. Let's go ahead and unlink this for now. It's not deleted. We can move this up. Oops. And link this again. Let's go ahead and hit auto align. Perfect. And now we just have to go back to these modules and just replace the variables from this to lemlist. Now we want the first name and last name. So first name and last name from lemlist. Everything is set here. We also need to go into Gmail and just make sure that we are referencing the correct email address. Let's go ahead and erase that and add the email address that we found from lemlist. Let's go ahead and hit save. And we also need to make sure that Google Sheets is pulling the correct email address as well and the correct information here. And everything is set. Let's hit save one last time. Let's see where that issue is. Okay, so the one place that we forgot to change it is here in under make request. We're still looking for the first name from that JSON. So we're gonna go and erase that and choose hi first name, save, save everything, auto align, and there you go, a beautiful automation that can supercharge your LinkedIn marketing and send highly personalized, highly customized emails to your leads at the click of a button.